Every planet in the cosmos just was rumbling with this energy, and I could feel it in my bones. It just had this vibration to it that was alive, that just went through me. And I could feel it just coursing through every part of me. And if you're harboring all of these negative feelings about people, even if they're well-deserved, you're just drawing more of it to you because that energy isn't attached to you. In the spiritual realm, good is forward motion, no matter how awful it feels. There was this like rumbling, thundering, and like this presence shook everything that ever had been or ever would be. Every planet in the cosmos just was rumbling with this energy, and I could feel it in my bones. And I knew something big was coming. And I never saw a person, and I always refer to God as he just because the energy felt very masculine to me. But I mean, I can't say with certainty that this was a man, and I don't think God is a man. I think I don't know, he was this mix of masculine and feminine because he was nurturing, but that power makes you think, at least me as a traditional person, it makes me think of a man. So, he came to me and I heard him say this telepathic thing. He said, "I am." And I had read that in the Bible so many times, he would come to people and they wouldn't know who he was. And he would say, "I am." And that was it. That's all he had to say. I'm like, man, you're the stuff. Well, you could just come up to somebody and say, "I am." And you're like, yeah, like you are. So he came to me like that. And this light, oh man, I got to tell you, Brian, there's a resonance. And it's the key of D is what it sounded like to me. It's hard to talk about. It just had this vibration to it that was alive, that just went through me. And I could feel it just coursing through every part of me. And so I'm there with him, and immediately I got kind of scared. I'm like, oh no, I wasn't ready for this. He's going to look at all the stuff that I've done wrong, that I'm so ashamed of. And he wasn't judging me. He was like super loving and everything, but it was like being naked in front of a crowd. I just was wanting to kind of hide, and he kind of soothed me in that, and I knew we were going to go through my life. And so here I'm dreading stuff like a kid, worried about the parents reading their diary or something. And all those things that I was so worried about, that I was dreading, never came up. What the heck, right? I think I had probably beat myself up enough about those. And so these other things came up. And first he showed me the good, and all of the things that I've done that I feel really good about did not come up. And the things that came up were, there was a scene in the grocery store that I had forgotten about. I mean, probably when my kids were little. And there was a woman in line in front of me, and she was short just a couple dollars to pay her bill. And she was trying to figure out what to put back. And I just knew what it was like to be in that position as a young mom. And I said, it's okay, I've got it. And I gave her the money. And it immediately, so I'm seeing this scene like I'm there. And immediately it flashes forward, and I see this woman working in a food pantry, and she's blessing these people with food. And God's showing me, he's like, I want you to see the ripple effect of every little act of kindness. And I saw that, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And then we went through some of the negative things. And the one thing that really stuck with me was that of all the things I've done in my life that I'm not proud of, the thing that was shown to me is probably the hardest thing to never do again. And it was to control my thoughts about other people. And God showed me, he said, let me explain something to you. So a thought has a certain measure of energy to it. A word has even more, and an action has more than that. But it all starts with a thought. And there's a thing in the Bible that says the mouth is like the rudder of a ship. The way you speak is the direction you go. And there's life and death in the tongue. Well, it's the same thing with your thoughts. And because what you think about is what you talk about is what you end up doing. And so it starts here. You got to control your thoughts and your heart. And so he showed me these negative thoughts that I had about people, and they were deserved. Let me tell you, these were some jerky people. And so he showed me, though, he said, when you spend your energy on this, and you're thinking these negative thoughts, it hurts you because the energy that you put out there impacts you. I'd had these negative thoughts about people, and so he showed me that when you have a negative thought about that person, that energy goes out there and it attaches itself to that person. You contribute to the jerk that person is, because now you've attached more of that energy to them. So this is why forgiving is so important. So when you forgive people, people say, oh, it's not for them, it's for you. It is for them, because if they don't receive some measure of forgiveness, that energy is still attached to them and it can't come away. The energy's got to go somewhere. And so when that energy isn't created or destroyed, it just changes form. So when you have a thought So if I think something negative about you, that thought attaches itself to your spirit and it makes you more the person that you are, that I'm thinking you are. And when I forgive you, that energy is able to be redirected. And so that little bit of negative that I put on you that made you more the negative person that you are now comes off because I've forgiven you. And so it's really important to that other person's journey for you to forgive them. And it's really important to you because not only does that negative energy go and attach to them, but it attaches to you. And energy attracts energy. So if you're harboring all of these negative feelings about people, even if they're well-deserved, you're just drawing more of it to you because that energy isn't attached to you. And wow, I mean, that's life-changing information. And so it's really changed the way I live my life. And so, here I've got that revelation and coming off of it, so we kind of pull away from this life review. And I don't remember every detail. We're not supposed to, I don't think. But here I am with this loving creator who's kind of let all the big stuff go that I was really worried about. And then I suddenly become angry with him. And I realized I'd been angry with God for a long time. And I told him, I said, you say you're this loving God and you want the best for your children. And I call bull crap, and you can just be so honest. I love that. I call bull crap. I've seen what you've allowed my own children to go through. And I said, here their dad abandons them when they're just babies. And him leaving me was hard enough and not deserved. And for him to abandon his own children, and I thought, I can take whatever he did to me. But watching those kids, talk to him on the telephone and then go to the mailbox every day to check for a gift that he said he was going to send that's never coming, and watch them walk back heartbroken every day. What kind of God allows that? I said it would have been easier on all of us. And this is terrible to say, but it would have been easier if he died, because I could have told the kids this story about what a wonderful man he was and how much he loved them. And they would have at least had that. But now they've got this man that's alive that is failing them in every way. And of course, children take that on and attribute it to something being wrong with them. And I really had held that against God. And I was bitter and I wanted to be mad at him. I was kind of balled up about it. And he said, oh, you've completely misunderstood me. And he said, let me show you something. And we flash forward and we're sitting in the bleachers. David, my oldest son, is sitting to my right. Now, when I had the experience, my grandson was 2. So David's sitting to my right and Cole's older. He's like 5 or 6. My grandson is. And we're watching him play soccer. And he's running up and down this field. And the sun's on his hair. And that magic of just kids, there's just something about it. And he's running up and down the field and I just seeing him in his strong body and his, his hair. And he's just magic. It's just magic. And David looks at me and he says, Mom, I'm never going to get through this. He says, Mom, I'm going to be the dad to him that I deserved. If it took his dad leaving for him to make that commitment, I get it. It's been worth it. And I got to say, he's been that dad. And it's so funny because a couple years later, Cole's playing soccer. Who would have known that at 2, right? Cole's playing soccer. And David looks at me and he says, Mom, I'm going to be the dad to him that I deserve. I mean, it just sucks the air out of you. I'm like, oh my gosh, that happened. And it was this confirmation from God. You were here. Because there's times you doubt that near-death experience because so many people doubt it. And he's like, no, you were here and I'm making manifest the things that I promised you. And I was like, wow.
Well, there's also a lesson in that we judge things, right? We say this is good or this is bad. And of course, the experiences that you've been through, anybody would call bad. We can't see the bigger picture. So, we have to live our lives forward, in which case a lot of times it'll make a lot of sense. But when we can look back on them, then we can start to make more sense of it.
Well, and I think the other thing I learned there was we have this really screwed up definition of good and bad. To us, good is when nothing is wrong, and bad is when everything is right. And in the spiritual realm, good is forward motion, no matter how awful it feels.